Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. My name is Sergey, and I was born in the USSR.
Вы смотрите программу Ushanka Show.
Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on Amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. Quite a few subscribers asked me to talk about Great Britain and about Soviet people attitude towards that country, so today we're going to talk about that. Well, of course, Soviet people opinion was heavily influenced by Soviet mass media, newspapers and TV, as you see on this picture, general attitude towards Great Britain was they are lackeys of United States. Well, after World War II, United States was pretty much calling the shots, right? So England was kind of like falling behind United States, and I believe they were paying off their debts for the military supplies during the war all the way into 80s. So this other picture that shows a British lion trapped in the dollar, what the word for those trap things? Mouse traps, right? Kind of depicts also what the Soviet people thought, or at least Soviet media thought about Great Britain. And of course, since England spent a lot of money on their military, I mean, there was no comparison how much United States spends on their military, but still they have nuclear weapons, they got nuclear submarines. So this picture kind of shows how the military sucks the money out of the pocket of England. So this attitude towards Great Britain was kind of in line with the similar attitude towards other countries, or like generally Western Europe. As you see at this following pictures, they just show you that it was portrayed as a hostage and victim of American imperialism, American militarism, with them bringing Persian nuclear missiles into Western Europe. So this picture kind of shows that. And of course, if we're talking about 80s, we have to talk about Falkland Island conflict, the war between Argentina and Great Britain. It was covered quite intensively in the Soviet mass media. I remember reading newspapers, so I think it was 1982. I think it happened, so I was about 11. But I remember reading and rooting for Argentina for them to win and defend their islands. So that was covered quite heavily. And while I was researching for some pictures to show you, along with the story, I found some information that actually the United States and Great Britain were quite concerned that Soviet Union going to jump and help Argentina. Like apparently the Soviet government was in discussion to have exchange, so we will send them military equipment in exchange for foodstuffs like meat and grain, but it never happened. So, but I remember the articles, newspapers was quite excited when British ships were sunk by Argentinian Air Force. Then, of course, we have to talk about Margaret Thatcher and how ruthless she was dealing with strikes, miner strikes, right? The coal miners were on strike at that time. I believe she was cutting off government subsidies for coal mining. So that was a big deal in the Soviet Union. That was quite extensively covered in the newspapers. And I remember that Iron Lady was covered quite in a negative light. On a positive side, during my lessons of English in school and during my time, I started school in 1978. In the 4th grade, so when you were 11, you start studying foreign language. Like my mom, she learned German, and then later on they switched pretty much all the schools to English, because I guess you need to study the language of your potential enemy, right? So a lot of lessons were based on London. You know, London is the capital of Great Britain, and then Trafalgar Square and Big Ben. So I kind of had that in my mind always. This I never saw it with my own eyes till later. So you kind of learn the whole layout of the capital of Great Britain because of your lessons of English. And we were actually taught British English. So I had a hard time coming to United States in 1995 because, for me, it's not schedule, it's schedule. It was issue with either neither or either neither and quite a few other words because I had British English. That's what English I learned in school. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but we had a magazine published by Great Britain. It was called Anglia, which is its Russian word for England. It was a hard to get magazine. You could subscribe to it, but I think it was a limited amount of copies. So that was deficit. I never had that magazine only till like in the 90s it was available. So that magazine was quite popular. It was telling stories about life in England, life in Great Britain generally. I believe there were some lessons of English. So that magazine was very popular in the Soviet Union. But as I said, you couldn't just go to the local bookstore or some newspaper stand and purchase one. And of course, if we're talking about England, we have to talk about Soviet movie Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. I found that movie amazing, and this initial music, when the movie was starting, like every Soviet person will recognize the tune instantly. As I said, it was a very popular movie, and I believe the actor who played Sherlock Holmes, the detective, he actually won some kind of award for one of the best roles, like how he portrayed Sherlock Holmes. But I was too lazy to dig deeper and find out. But I recall something like that he actually won first place for being the best Sherlock Holmes. And of course, if we're talking about England, we have to talk about English jokes. We had a lot of humor, a lot of anecdotes about Englishmen, and of course we had a lot of jokes about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson that was just so popular. So here there's one joke about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. So they went camping one day, set up their tent, and then they went to sleep at night. In the middle of the night, Sherlock Holmes, he started punching Watson. Like, wake up, I have a question for you. So Watson was still half asleep, they've been drinking heavily. He's like, what is it? And Sherlock says, Watson, look at this beautiful sky. Look at those bright stars. What kind of conclusions, it's always about, Sherlock Holmes makes some kind of conclusions based on some evidence. What kind of conclusions can you come up with looking at this sky, this beautiful night sky? And Watson's still sleepy, like, well, I don't know. Stars are very bright. I don't see any clouds blocking it, so probably that means that tomorrow will be a beautiful, gorgeous day. There will be no rain. And Sherlock answered, Watson, you are such a dumbass. These bright stars tell us that someone stole our tent while we were asleep. And of course, we had many other jokes about British people. Like, they are super formal, extremely very formal, hardly show any emotions, always add sir in the end, whatever they say. So we had a lot of jokes on that topic. And of course, it always ends with sir in the end of the joke. And one curious detail about Soviet mass media, like newspapers, radio, TV, and it clicked like many, many years later. I think when I already lived in America. Like in Britain, they have a Labor Party. Well, if you translate Labor Party into Russian language, labor is a bit like Trudovaya Partiya, so it's like workers' party pretty much, right? They never translated that word into workers' party or Trudovaya Partiya. In Russian, they still were saying that this is Labor Party. So, Partiya Laboristi, instead of Trudoviki, so they say Tory and Laboristi. They just didn't want to translate the word so it sounds more like that party is for regular workers. So that I found it kind of interesting, that detail. Okay, ladies and gents, I hope you liked this video. Maybe you learned something new. As always, don't forget to put likes, share with your friends, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye. Hey, by the way, the cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet Union.